Good morning. We are here at a early morning beach clean. I wanted to do a sunrise beach clean, but geez, the sunrise is even earlier than I thought. It's around 6 a.m. and the sun's already up. I don't know how many degrees above the horizon, but more than I would have expected this early. As you may have realized by now, I'm not really a morning beach cleaner, but I'm trying to change my habits because this time of year in the summer when it gets hot, during the day, it's better to go early before it gets too hot. So I don't want to take too much time talking now. I'll wait until we get some treasures to discuss those, some beach treasures. If you haven't joined us before, you'll see some of them very soon. So yeah, let's hit the sand, hit the beach here, and see what we can find. See what treasures we turn up today on this beautiful summer early, not too hot yet morning. So yeah, let's take a look. So that actually went pretty well. There were some benefits definitely to doing an early morning beach clean, as well as some detractions, I suppose you could say. And so we'll start with the benefits. And the first one was the big one that I said right before I went out, that it's really nice this time of year. It's, late June, it's about to be July, to do any amount of cool weather sort of activity. And the cool weather doesn't last long this time of year. So I'm a big runner, jogger, hiker, kayaker, all that good stuff. So, more and more this season, as we transition into summer, we just had the solstice, that I can get in, either nighttime jogs or early morning kayak trips, and now early morning beach cleans. That's huge because it's just nice to do something physical where you heat up naturally and you don't have the sun beating down upon you. And in fact, it's not even 7 o'clock quite yet. I was only out there maybe 45 minutes, but even within 45 minutes and, you know, with just a little bit of sunlight, it got really hot really fast already. I started warming up, and it was crazy to think that it started out like a pretty cool beach clean, and then it heated up. It heated up pretty quick. So that was good. That was nice to sort of stay cool and do a little beach cleaning that way. However, I made this mistake last time I went out and did an early morning beach clean, which shows my inexperience in doing early morning beach cleans, where I forgot bug spray again. And in fact, because last time that I went out, I had forgotten bug spray, I went out and bought new bug spray and fancy bug spray. And by fancy, I mean it's lavender, I don't know, apple cider vinegar, yada, yada, yada nonsense. So it's like allegedly really good and healthy and organic and all that stuff. But sorry, there's flies that I'm going to talk about in a moment too. Because I forgot the bug spray, and well, there you have it. Because I forgot the bug spray, I got eaten alive, and I learned things the hard way, so that you don't have to. And hopefully, I'm 2 strikes down now in terms of going out and being eaten alive by bugs on early morning beach clean, beach cleaning. Because again, it's not that bad in the afternoons usually with bugs. I don't even think they were mosquitoes. I think they were just like little sand fleas or something. But man, they're annoying. So pardon the itching throughout the rest of this video. But don't make that mistake, kids. Bring your, yeah, they're even getting in my car. Bring your bug spray. It's almost this time of year, I would argue, as important as water, especially if you're going out and doing an early morning beach clean where it's not too hot. Because I always say you never want to forget water this time of year either, because it gets so warm. And you know, worst thing you can do obviously is overheat and dehydrate and all that stuff. You don't want to be passing out while beach cleaning, obviously, which is a danger. So you know, just take those precautions for sure. So yeah, there's definitely benefits, definitely a little bit of differences that you have to measure or weigh in mind as you're preparing. And this is true. This is what I always talk about when people ask me about preparing for a beach clean. This time of year too, I didn't bring sunscreen or wear sunscreen with me, but you know, if I was going out even a few hours later, I would absolutely be lathered in sunscreen, even though I tan pretty well and the sun's usually not a huge issue for me if I take precautions. I have friends who they melt at like the first whiff of sunlight. So you really have to be careful in different seasons for these reasons in terms of how the weather can really affect your time of having a good or bad beach clean outing, because that's not something else you want to do, right? You don't want to have a bad beach clean outing and then you think, oh, this sucks, I don't want to do it anymore. So anyways, without further ado, I did want to just share with you some of the treasures that I found. And yeah, I mean, I wish I brought my bug spray because I could spend another hour easy on this stretch of beach. You know, it's funny, they closed this beach because with everything going on with the coronavirus, it's only open, it opens at 10 a.m., but there's a closed parking lot, that's the main beach parking lot, and then there's a much bigger boat lot, it's like an overflow lot, and that is much bigger than the regular lot, and that is unlocked for boaters. So there's usually loopholes, and I was here early enough where it's not like there's even anybody around to stop me if they wanted to. And there were a few other people out on the beach fishing and just, you know, mucking about, whatever. So people were out, but, you know, nobody did really bother you. So, yeah, you always got to look up those guidelines too. But as long as you're not up to anything nefarious, which beach cleaning is the least nefarious thing you'd probably be up to, usually people don't bother you. So anyways, another sign of the times this season are the objects that I found, like water bottles. So this time of year, you do find a lot of trash that people are leaving on the beach. And this is something that I say that's different from other times of the year, like the winter. People ask, well, what is there to beach clean in the winter? Well, there's usually just as much. It's just not as obvious trash, or it's not in the places where people normally go to in the summer, because I don't know the exact numbers even now, but plenty, if not more, ocean plastic waste and pollution gets to the ocean via runoff and storm drains, streams, that sort of stuff. And that's something that I talked about in my last video, if you want to check that out, how plastic might start sometimes many, many miles inland, but, you know, eventually can wind up running down into the oceans. So that's something that you find in the winter more so, and that's why you find like weird stuff that's from tipped over garbage cans and just street litter, you know, light bulbs, batteries, all sorts of nonsense like that. Whereas this time of year, yeah, you are finding more stuff that people just kind of leave at the beach, like water bottles, Poland Spring bottles. The good thing actually about these is that you can recycle them. If they're fresh enough and clean enough, which some of these look, you can easily rinse these out, clean them out. And if they are, yeah, this is a #1 type of plastic, which is recyclable for where I live. So that's great. I mean, any amount that you can recycle, again, it's not the solution to the problem, but if you're just walking around, if you're just hanging out and you don't have anything to do anyways, why wouldn't you do this, right? I've seen a lot more people actually at the beach just doing their daily strolls, picking up trash, which is great. But there's still so many people that are just hanging out. And again, it is good to see the more people I run into that ask me what I'm doing or thank me for what I'm doing. They sort of are encouraged by that, and they want to get involved themselves. So every little bit certainly does make a difference. So a few things I found in addition that I thought were kind of interesting was our select beverage of the day, which today is Corona Extra. I don't know if you can see there. Find a lot of beer cans, like I said, this time of year on the beach because it's summer and people are coming and partying and being the wrong kind of irresponsible. I'm all for having a good time, but if you're leaving your trash everywhere, that's not great. I do find it ironic. I feel as if I found more and more Corona cans since the pandemic started. So I don't know what that's about, but certainly seems to be a theme and a trend. But whatever. Uh, that I don't think I'll be able to recycle, but there's plenty of more that are very fresh that you can recycle. Um, I also found a shovel to help in my beach clean adventures if I have to dig anything up. I've actually found many of these just kids' toys, so any parents watching, make sure your kids pick up your stuff. And again, that's something that certainly started at the beach. I doubt that was washed down river or through storm drains or anything like that. So that's something that very easily can be prevented by just, doing a check and making sure that everything is cleaned up before you leave your beach outing. And then something else I found that is very common this type of year, and perhaps the most insidious or harmful on a practical level, is this, which is fishing line. And this fishing line is a very tough plastic. Like, I couldn't even tear it apart if I wanted to. And the problem, as you can see here, is a lot of biomass gets tangled in these. So obviously that's a bad thing, right? Especially if there are pieces of material that, again, belong in the ecosystem and should be part of the ecosystem. It does no good to be tangled up in that sort of mess of wire. And I've seen lots of things tangled up in this, especially like shellfish and that sort of stuff. So actual marine life can get tangled in them too, which is terrible. And other than that, I've seen, seagulls with fishing line wrapped around their feet and they can't fly. I'm sure many other animals suffer from getting trapped in this sort of thing. So any fisher people listening, please, don't just cut your lines and leave them. Pick these up. It can make a big difference at various levels. And, that's something about plastic pollution that I think is important to share, is this idea that it's not a monolith of a problem. Obviously, plastics are a type of problem, but among them, there's variation. As you see with this string, this specifically causes problem in addition to slowly over years and then sometimes decades or centuries taking time to break down into poison for the environment. It has very realistic short-term consequences or impacts as well. And so picking this up, getting rid of this can make a big difference. Whereas water bottles, it's like, a sea turtle isn't going to maybe choke on a water bottle, but it might choke on a straw. There's plenty of videos of that going around. But again, larger marine mammals might swallow plastic bottles whole. And all of that, again, breaks down into microplastics, which, eventually, that just creates poison, essentially, for the environment and is leading to many more environmental issues in terms of ocean degradation and, poisoning the oceans over time. So obviously the solutions here, and this is something that I want to talk more about in future videos, do involve shifting away from these types of plastics or working to find not just alternatives, but ways to handle and process these types of plastics a little bit more. As of now, people think, well, I put my plastic in my recycling, I'm solving the problem. Well, where does that plastic go? It's a good question. I'll link some recent resources in the description of, or rather, I'll link some resources in the description of recent videos that question and call into context where some of this plastic recycling is going and how, it's really, in many ways, an inefficient system, and it needs attention brought onto it in order to upgrade it. Because this issue, it's I understand it's difficult. It's like, I'm busy, I have several jobs. Many people watching or listening are probably very busy in their own ways, whether family and work and all that. So it's hard to, with an issue that you don't see the impacts of directly, to really get invested in it at the level of, let's demand something done different. But in the end, this affects all of us, regardless of who we are or where we come from or where we live. And obviously that's going to, over time, as we see with climate change and other environmental issues, affect some people more than others, but it ultimately does affect all of us. So there needs to be more pressure put on both, we as consumers need to put more pressure on companies, ourselves, which we've done before with plastic straw bans and plastic bag bans. So it can be done, but we need to raise that awareness in order to do so, as well as to pressure legislators, politicians of various sorts. And I'll link some resources about how to find out how your own local and larger federal higher up politicians score in terms of their environmental advocacy, because it's an important issue, and I think it's something that we need to try to highlight more, the not just the immediate impacts of, like, it's impactful to see a sea turtle, choking on a straw, but obviously there are these long-term consequences too. So like I said, I'm going to link all of that. I think this was a pretty good haul for a short beach clean, only 45 minutes. I'm going to bring bug spray next time, or I'm going to try to, at least, because my car now, it has these flies all over it. But anyways, that's pretty much it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's always great. I've gotten so much great feedback so far with some of these videos, in terms of just, people getting inspired to try to go out and see what they can do themselves beach cleaning, and other people asking questions and sharing their stories and that sort of stuff. So yeah, please, comment about your own experiences and your own ideas. I'm going to have many more videos to come this summer as the weather's nicer. There's many more options in terms of going out to different places. So subscribe if you like this video and you want to see more. You'll get updates on our latest videos. Should have some fun ones coming out soon. And, hopefully we'll work to deal with this issue together, one plastic bottle and tangled fishing line at a time. So thanks again so much for watching, and hope you are having a good summer, and hopefully as well to see you on the beach soon. Thanks again.